guys, I'm Sarah. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing series review. I do want to mention something. I have decided after this video goes up and this series review, I am not going to be doing individual videos of like individual series or standalone books anymore. I've done a few. The most recent ones I did was for the Dragons of Starlight series by Bryan and the Horse Angel series by Angela Dorsey. I'll leave links to those videos down in the description so you can check them out if you want. But I just found I don't really like filming them that well. I also noticed they get the least amount of views and like interaction on of my other videos, and those definitely don't get much. And also, yeah, I don't know, I find it hard to want to film those, even though, you know, I like talking about the books, but I think I just do better doing the recent reads. So in case you're worried, I'm still doing the recent reads. Like when I get to like 8 or so books, I will then post a video of what I've been recently reading with like mini reviews. I find longer reviews I write better, so if you want like longer reviews or more like in-depth on certain things that I may forget about to talk about in videos, I will always from now on, like my recent reads and in this video for this series, I will put links to my reviews on Goodreads below, because I find it easier to write some of those things better than to do like a block series review and talk about it. So, but I'm going to do this one because I have promised multiple times in other videos to do this one. So this is the series I am ending like these individual series reviews on. I will still also be doing like recommendation videos, like the Christian Fantasy 2 that I did last year, which was Christian Fantasy with and without magic. I did 2 separate videos. I will be doing more of those types of things. Like so if you have any requests for things like that, go ahead and leave those down in the comments. I already have a request to do a clean fantasy romance video. I have not gotten to that one because I got to myself totally overwhelmed trying to figure that one out. So, but I will be doing it in the future. So, yeah, I have that one, and I am planning one to do like a all the manga I've read so far this year. So I'm doing those types of things. So yeah, this will be the last series review, but recent reads and recommendation videos and like certain genres or groups or whatever will be continuing. So with that said, I am going to be doing the series review for the Tales of Starlight by Bryan. This is the adult companion trilogy. I do not own book 1, which is why it's not here, to his young adult series, Dragons of Starlight. And yes, yeah. And basically, the first book is Masters and Slayers. I do not have it. It looks exactly the same as this one. It's just black and gray is the cover, but it looks exactly the same as this one. The second book is Third Starlighter, and the third book is Exodus Rising. Yeah, these are, of course, the companion adult series, like I said, to Dragons of Starlight, which is the young adult series, and the link for that video review is in the description. Basically, this series follows the exact same plot line as, the most vaguest plot line as Dragons of Starlight, which is these humans live on a certain human planet, but they've always heard of the tales of the Lost Ones, which were humans that were kidnapped by dragons and taken to Starlight, the next planet over, and enslaved and stuff like that. So Adrian Masters is a sword fighter. He's a guard of the governor, who is ruling the human kingdom, and he always wanted to go and find the Lost Ones. He also wants to find his older brother who disappeared there, like, I think it was years ago, he disappeared there. And so he and his sword maiden friend Marcel are trying to get there, and they have very different ways of getting there, and basically they end up on Starlight along with the teenagers that end up there later from Dragons of Starlight, and things ensue from there as they try to save the Lost Ones and defeat the dragons. The difference between this series and Dragons of Starlight is, well, we're following adult characters, so Marcel and Adrian, and we get some viewpoints as well from the main bad guy in the story, who we kind of get see briefly in Dragons of Starlight, but he doesn't have a big plot line there, because obviously he's the villain of this series. So yeah, I will say I would recommend reading this series along with Dragons of Starlight, or even afterwards, because in Exodus Rising, especially for the end, you will get spoiled for the very end of the Dragons of Starlight series. Like the very climactic end of what happens to the dragons and stuff, you will get spoiled for it in this book. So I would recommend the reading order that the author has suggested, which is in Tales of Starlight. It is in, let me see if I can find the page. It is in the very front here. So like if you look at the Amazon look inside edition, you know, when you go on Amazon and see the read inside thing, you will probably see this because it's literally right after the copyright page. And also I did list the order of how to read them on with this recommendation on my reviews for Starlight and I believe Masters and Slayers. But yeah, I would recommend that because this series was written after Dragons of Starlight, and it does incorporate some very key plot elements in that series that are huge spoilers. So yeah, that is just my recommendation. Yeah, what makes this adult as opposed to young adult is that obviously we're following adult characters. There's a few more hinted at adult themes. Honestly, this is very clean. I would give this to a teenager. It would be perfectly fine for a teenager to read this. Yeah, there's like some kind of allusions to like how, you know, how the dragons kind of forced these slaves to procreate. So there's kind of a bit of that in the very first book, but it's very glossed over. I mean, it's mentioned, but it's mentioned in a tasteful and clean way so that it's not like you get the dilemma that they're going through, but it's not graphic or anything. There is also the violence, I would say, is more intense in this series than, say, the Dragons of Starlight series. Yeah, but that's pretty much it. Aside from we're following adult characters and the violence is a little more intense and there's a few more slightly involved, not really involved, but deep mentions of like how the dragons were forcing the humans to reproduce. That's which is pretty much located to the first book. The third book has a little bit more in it too because two characters are, you know, are like engaged and want to get married and stuff. So there's a few like little hints of things, but pretty much, yeah, it's very glossed over, very clean. So I would say it's fine for teenagers to read too, but that's pretty much the only indication that this is an adult series as opposed to young adult. So yeah, but yeah, this is Christian fantasy, if I didn't mention that. This is a Christian fantasy series, and yeah, I really did enjoy this one. This was my first time reading the series because I found this book in Goodwill. So yeah, I wanted to read it. I got Masters and Slayers in the library, so which is why I don't own it. So yeah, I really enjoyed how this went. Adrian and Marcel are really good characters. Marcel did irritate me a bit because she starts out as like this really hot-headed individual who like knows everything that's best, and you know, she knows what's best and you can't tell her to stop and how dare you, and you know, she looks down on feminine qualities and stuff like that, but it is her growth. She does get over that a bit in the second and especially in the third book. Yeah, so I found her irritating at first in the very first book, but I was willing to overlook it a little bit because I could tell there was some kind of character growth going on there, and there is. She is a much better character by the end. Adrian, I like the whole way through. He's just a very solid, brave character who just wants to do the right thing, but he doesn't always go about it the right way, but none of us do. Yeah, the plot of this one goes pretty much parallel to the one in Dragons of Starlight, except for in Exodus Rising, it does deviate. I think about, like, by the end of Liberator, I think we're only, I'm not really sure, but Liberator is the last book in the Dragons of Starlight series. I think it's somewhere around here. Yeah, it's pretty much, it ends early on, and then we go back to the main plot of, because aside from the rescuing the slaves from the Dragon Planet stuff, there is like a takeover happening back on the human planet of this human guy, this Starlighter, which Starlighters in this world are people who have magical abilities. If you're a female, you can actually males can do it too. You basically, when you tell stories, you bring characters to life around you. You can hypnotize people that way. You also have other powers. There's differences between males and females, and they accidentally get stuck with a male Starlighter in the on the human planet of Major 4. So that is basically the big plot line of Tales of Starlight when it's not running along the same plot line as Dragons of Starlight. So yeah, there is that whole thing, kind of a political intrigue. There's not that many politics, considering the guy can just hypnotize anyone to make him do what he wants. So there's not really a lot of politics, but it's kind of the same idea. So yeah, definitely deviates from the whole save the people from the dragons angle in this book. The other two books, Masters and Slayers and Third Starlighter, say that better, basically follow the Dragons of Starlight plotline. And yeah, I really enjoyed this series. I really like Bryan Davis's works, and yeah, I would recommend these. I would also recommend Dragons of Starlight as well, and to read both of these series at the same time. The only caveats I had, I did feel there was one part in the very end of Exodus Rising that I didn't really think matched up with the end of Liberator, the epilogue in Liberator. But I think that was just a slight, kind of just like jarring thing. It wasn't enough to take me out of the story, but it was enough for me to sit there and wonder, that wasn't exactly the same, but I do understand why, because I do believe he wrote and published Dragons of Starlight first before this series, so it's possible that he missed a couple details, and that was pretty much the only detail that I thought, that doesn't quite match. So really, that's pretty good. Yeah, and I don't know, I did think the ending is good. Everything wraps up just fine in Exodus Rising. It did just feel a tiny bit abrupt. Not in a bad way, it just felt, I don't know, it just felt abrupt. And that one extra little detail that doesn't quite match up with the other series, just a tad in that one detail, and that's pretty much it. Otherwise, yeah, I would say I liked Exodus Rising the least. I would say out of the three books, I would probably like the Third Starlighter the best. Then it would probably be Masters and Slayers, and then Exodus Rising. But yeah, I still really enjoyed this series. Would highly recommend. I would highly recommend all of Bryan Davis's books, actually. He's just a very good author. He knows how to write action and just adventure, and he knows how to weave in Christian themes without it being preachy or annoying or anything like that, which is a tendency I tend to find in Christian fiction that is a problem for me, is that it can get too preachy or it's just unrealistic in ways, but he writes it in a very realistic, very non-preachy way of just like, this is the way it is, and sometimes things work, and sometimes things don't, and we don't know why, and yeah, and we still just have to trust God anyways, and I just really enjoyed that. And we'll also say, like I said, for Dragons of Starlight, there is this slight, like, sci-fi kind of, it was almost fantasy mixed with a little bit of sci-fi in Dragons of Starlight. The sci-fi type elements that I came up with, like, it was basically like the human, how the dragons basically kept the humans going on their planet after a disease. I'll leave it at that. That was less in this series. This series felt very much like an epic fantasy, while Dragons of Starlight had a tiny bit more of, like, sci-fi flavor. This series didn't really have that much of that. This was just basically fantasy. So yeah. Other than that, I can't really think of anything else to say about this except go read it. If you have read Dragons of Starlight and you want more of it, this series definitely also expands on that world. So yeah, or if you're interested in one series, I would highly recommend trying both. So yeah, it definitely expands the world, expands what's going on with all these characters, all these different characters, and yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about the Tales of Starlight by Bryan Davis. Let me know down below in the comments if you guys have read either this series or Dragons of Starlight, or if not, if they sound interesting. And yeah, I hope you're not too disappointed that I'm not doing these types of review videos anymore, but yeah, I just have to do with what I feel is right for myself and my channel, and I just feel like dropping these types of videos will help me focus on other things that might work better or that I'll like better. But yes, yeah, let me know what you guys think, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching, you guys, and yeah, I will see you next time. And happy 2023. Let's hope this year's good. All right, I'll see you later, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.